Good morning, students. Welcome back to our online interactions. In this video lecture, we are going to discuss about the concepts of implantation, which already we discussed in last class. Now we will continue the topic implantation. Almost the complete information about the implantation we discussed in last class, and still some more topics we have to know about the implantation. And after implantation, what will happen in the blastocyst? Okay, so that all we will discuss now. In this class, we will discuss the events that takes place after implantation. So before going to discuss that, some information about the implantation. As already we discussed in last class, implantation is the attachment of blastocyst to the endometrium of the uterus, right? So after this attachment, there is formation of a pit in the endometrium by the secretions of trophoblast. Trophoblast secretes some histolytic enzymes. That histolytic enzymes will form a pit in the endometrium. So blastocyst will completely buried in that endometrium. So after implantation, there will be some changes takes place in the endometrium. Okay, so endometrium will modifies or endometrium will changes. This modified endometrium or changed endometrium is known as a decidua. As already I gave you in last class, what is a decidua? What is decidua? Decidua is modification of endometrium, or it is a modified endometrium, or it is a modified region of the endometrium. Okay, so decidua, after implantation, the endometrium will become more vascular, spongy and thicker. So now this more vascular, spongy and thick endometrium is known as decidua. So the implantation leads to modification of endometrium. Implantation leads to modification of endometrium. So after implantation, endometrium will become more vascular, spongy and thicker. That is known as decidua. Okay, already I gave this in last class. Now, in the decidua, there are three parts in human being. The decidua has the three types or three regions are there in the decidua. The first one is decidua basalis. Decidua basalis. The second is decidua capsularis. Decidua capsularis. And the third one is decidua parietalis. So we can notice three type of decidua or three regions in the modified endometrium, that are decidua basalis, decidua capsularis and decidua parietalis. Decidua parietalis. So after implantation, the endometrium will modifies, or the endometrium will undergo some changes. So this modified or changed endometrium is known as decidua. So here the vascularity will be increases, the capillary distribution in the endometrium will be enhances. Along with that, the thickness of endometrium will increases and endometrium will become spongy. That will be the changes takes place. Now based on the location, we can classify the decidua into three regions or three types. Observe here in the endometrium of uterus, if it is uterus, inside it is endometrium. So in this endometrium, already implantation done here. Already implantation done here, right? So after implantation, what will happen? The burying of blastocyst into the wall of endometrium or into the endometrial tissue, that already completed. We already discussed about that. Now if you observe here, After implantation, again there is reformation of this digested tissue here. The tissue which is present in the endometrium at the site of implantation is digested by action of histolytic enzymes that are released by trophoblast layer. Now later it will be reformed here. If you observe carefully here, the region which is present in between endometrium and myometrium at the site of implantation. It is the site of implantation. Actually, implantation took place here. So now it is endometrium and it is myometrium. There are three layers in the wall of uterus. Already we discussed that. The innermost is endometrium, the middle is myometrium, and the outer one is perimetrium. So here, listen carefully. Where the place is present here in between endometrium and myometrium. Okay, that is deciduea basalis. Deciduea basalis. So deciduea basalis is the region present between endometrium and myometrium at the site of implantation. What is deciduea basalis? The modified endometrium. The modified endometrium which is present in between endometrium and myometrium at the site of implantation. At the site of implantation, is it clear? So it is the endometrium, it is the myometrium. In between these two, what is the space present here? This modified space or this modified endometrium is known as deciduea basalis. Deciduea means that is a modification or modified part. Okay. So here what is deciduea basalis? Where we can notice this deciduea basalis? Deciduea basalis is the region between endometrium and myometrium at the site of implantation. Endometrium and myometrium at the site of implantation. Is it clear? Write down what is deciduea basalis. What is deciduea basalis? The region in between are the portion of okay. So here the region that is present between endometrium and the myometrium. Endometrium and the myometrium at the site of implantation. But later there is formation of chorionic villi. So at that time, after formation of chorionic villi from the trophoblast layer, here there will be formation of villi-like structure here, like this. Around the trophoblast there is formation of this chorionic villi. Okay, or there is formation of chorion. We will discuss that later. Just remember what is deciduea basalis here. Deciduea basalis is the part that is present between endometrium and myometrium at the site of implantation. At the site of implantation. See, actually, there is formation of an extra embryonic layer like this around the trophoblast here. Okay, so this is known as chorion. We will discuss this later. This is chorion, and here is endometrium, right? Endometrium. This is endometrium layer, and here myometrium is there. Myometrium. Observe carefully. It is endometrium. It is a chorion. Chorion. I will give you about this chorion later. Just remember, it is chorion. Chorion. Okay, and it is myometrium. It is endometrium. It is chorion. It is myometrium. If you observe carefully now, it is chorion. It is myometrium. In between chorion and myometrium, there is endometrium. Okay. So actually, this is the exact deciduea basalis. What is the exact site or where the exact deciduea basalis we should notice? Deciduea basalis is the portion of endometrium that present between chorion and myometrium of the uterus. Okay, a very clear definition for this is the portion of endometrium. I am writing here what is deciduea basalis. Portion of endometrium. The portion of endometrium present between Korean and myometrium. Korean and myometrium. Korean and myometrium, that you have to notice here. So Korean and myometrium of the uterus. Korean and myometrium of the uterus. Korean and myometrium of the uterus. Is it clear? Right? If you see here, if you won't consider the Korean which is formed here, later we will discuss. Korean is one of the very important extra embryonic layer. Now just observe here the space between endometrium and myometrium at the site of implantation I gave you. But what is the exact definition? If we consider the Korean here, the portion of endometrium here. This is the portion of endometrium that is present between Korean and myometrium. The portion of endometrium that is present between Korean and myometrium. So here it is inner layer endometrium, right? And here the middle layer myometrium, right? So in the endometrium only implantation done here. After that, around this, there is formation of an extra embryonic layer, Korean. So this is actually Korean, right? So now if you observe in between Korean and myometrium, it is Korean, it is myometrium. Korean, this outer one is Korean. In between Korean and myometrium, Korean and myometrium of uterus, there is a portion of endometrium. There is a part of endometrium, right? The portion of endometrium present between Korean and myometrium. Korean and myometrium. Is it clear? Important mark. What is deciduo basalis? The portion of endometrium present between Korean and myometrium. Korean and myometrium of the uterus is known as deciduo basalis. See here, actually this deciduo basalis is the site of formation of placenta in future. In future, here there is formation of an organic connection between the mother and fetus, that is the placenta. So that placenta will form from which modified part of the uterus or which part of the endometrium, that is deciduo basalis. Deciduo basalis, very important. So where the formation of placenta takes place, deciduo basalis. Actually it is the portion present between Korean and myometrium. From here only the endometrial tissue of the uterus and the chorionic villi of the fetus together form an organic connection between mother and fetus, which is known as placenta. We will discuss about the formation of placenta later, but just remember here from which part of the endometrium placenta will form, that is the deciduo basalis. Deciduo basalis, right? So deciduo basalis is completed. Deciduo basalis is completed. And after completion of deciduo basalis, the next is deciduo capsularis. Deciduo capsularis. Observe here, after implantation, that is attachment of blastocyst to the endometrium of the uterus, the trophoblast layer of blastocyst secretes some histolytic enzymes. That histolytic enzymes will break down the endometrial tissue that leads to formation of a pit in this. After that, the blastocyst will enter into the pit. After entry of this blastocyst into the pit, which is formed in the endometrium, there is reformation, or there is formation of a capsule on this. A capsule-like structure will form on this, and that leads to burying of. Blastocyst into the endometrium. Okay, so this newly formed capsule-like structure of endometrium. So the capsule-like endometrium which covers the implanted blastocyst is known as deciduo capsularis. This part. So what is this? Deciduo Deciduea capsularis. Deciduea capsularis. So what is Deciduea capsularis here? It is actually the portion of endometrium that covers the blastocyst in the form of a capsule. The portion of endometrium that covers blastocyst in the form of a capsule, that you have to notice. So after implantation, there is formation of a pit in the endometrium. Blastocyst will be pushed into the pit in the endometrium. Later, what will happen? There is reformation of endometrium or regeneration of endometrium in this broken part. Then blastocyst is buried. Blastocyst is buried in the endometrial tissue. So this portion of endometrium, which covers the blastocyst is known as Deciduea capsularis. Deciduea capsularis, write down what is the Deciduea capsularis. The portion of endometrium which covers the blastocyst in the form of a capsule. The portion of endometrium which covers the blastocyst in the form of a capsule, a thin layer around this. So the portion of endometrium which covers blastocyst in the form of capsule is known as Deciduea capsularis. So both the Deciduea basalis and Deciduea capsularis are completed. So what is Deciduea basalis? Deciduea basalis is the portion of endometrium present between chorion and myometrium of the uterus. Deciduea capsularis, the portion of endometrium which covers the blastocyst, in the form of a capsule. Okay, both are endometrial, but both are modified endometria, that you have to know. So both are regions of endometrium, but there is modification done in this. Because of that, we are calling that as a decidua. What are the important modifications done here? It became more vascular, it became spongy, and it became very thick. Okay, so that you have to notice here. After completion of Deciduea capsularis, the next one is the Deciduea parietalis. Deciduea parietalis. Okay. See, observe here. It is the largest part of Deciduea, or it is the largest modified region of the endometrium. The entire endometrium. So, Deciduea parietalis is the thickened endometrium throughout the uterus. The thickened endometrium throughout the uterus, except at the site of formation of placenta. In remaining region. So, the endometrium which will thicken during the pregnancy. Okay, the endometrium which will thicken during the pregnancy is Deciduea parietalis. So the entire region of endometrium which will thicken during the pregnancy, except the site of placenta formation, is known as parietalis. Okay, Deciduea parietalis. Write down what is the definition for this Deciduea parietalis here. Write down the portion of modified endometrium. That lines the entire pregnant uterus. The portion of modified endometrium, see here, the portion of modified endometrium that lines the entire portion of pregnant uterus, except the site of placenta formation. Except this region, except this. Okay, so observe here, except this region where the placenta is formed. One thing you should notice here carefully. So Deciduea basalis, Deciduea capsularis, both are located in same region. That you have to notice here. Deciduea basalis is present inside, that is in between endometrium and myometrium. Endometrium and myometrium. And at outside, that is in between the cavity of uterus and the blastocyst, there is Deciduea capsularis. So the entire uterus will become thickened. The entire uterus will become thick during the pregnancy. So except that region where the placenta will form, remaining entire region, even the capsule also, okay, even the Deciduea capsularis also will become thick. Okay, it is also a part in the Deciduea parietalis in future. Immediately after implantation, there is formation of Deciduea capsularis. But later in this region also, what will happen? Later, this region also will become very thick. So there will be Deciduea parietalis, which is the largest region of the Deciduea. Which is the largest region of the Deciduea? Deciduea parietalis. What is Deciduea parietalis? The modified endometrium. The modified endometrium of entire uterus in a pregnant female. Okay, the modified endometrium of the uterus in a pregnant female, except at the site of placentation, that is Deciduea basalis. Except Deciduea basalis, remaining the region of the uterus will become thick during the pregnancy, that is known as Deciduea parietalis. Is it clear? So 3 I gave you here. Deciduea basalis, the first one it is. It is the space actually present between the portion of endometrium and myometrium. So the portion of endometrium present between chorion and myometrium is Deciduea basalis. Next, Deciduea capsularis, the portion of endometrium which covers blastocyst in the form of a capsule is Deciduea capsularis. Next, Deciduea parietalis, the entire region of a pregnant uterus which will increase its thickness during the pregnancy, except the site of placentation, that is a placenta formation. Except the site of placenta formation, remaining the region, the entire region in the uterus is Deciduea parietalis. Is it clear about the Deciduea? So there we can notice 3 Deciduea, or the endometrium will completely undergo modifications during the pregnancy. Its vascularization increases, it will become spongy, and its thickness will increase during the pregnancy. But before that, there is a modification done in the endometrium for implantation, that is formation of a pit. After that, there is formation of a capsule and the blastocyst. The two are basalis and capsularis. But during the pregnancy or in the uterus of a pregnant female, the entire endometrium of the uterus will become thick. So there is a modification that is known as Deciduea parietalis. Even Deciduea capsularis is a part in the Deciduea parietalis in fissure. That we have to know, right? So which will form first here? Deciduea basalis, Deciduea capsularis, and after that Deciduea parietalis. That you should notice here. So that are the 3 type of Deciduea we can notice in the endometrium of the uterus. Okay, in the endometrium of the uterus, there are some modifications takes place after implantation, which are known as the deciduates. In this, there are 3 regions: Deciduea basalis, Deciduea capsularis, and Deciduea parietalis. From which part of the decidua or which part of the endometrium placenta will develop? Deciduea basalis. And which is the largest modified endometrial part in the uterus of a pregnant female? Deciduea parietalis. So that you should notice here. So after completion of this Deciduea, next we have to discuss the next process in the blastocyst after implantation. What will happen? After implantation, what will happen in this? After implantation, the next one here, gastrulation. Gastrulation, one of the very important topics in the embryonic development, that is the gastrulation. So the formation of gastrula. So after blastocyst, the blastocyst will be converted into gastrula. Okay. So that gastrula formation is known as gastrulation. Write down the definition for this gastrulation. Write down the definition for this gastrulation. Write down the transformation of blastocyst, the transformation of blastocyst into gastrula, the transformation of blastocyst into the transformation of blastocyst into gastrula with three germ layers, by rearrangement of cells in the blastocyst, by rearrangement of the cells, of blastocyst is known as gastrulation. So the transformation of blastocyst into gastrula with three primary germ layers. Okay, the three primary germ layers, maybe you all know that in triploblastic animals there are three germ layers. What are that? Ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. So that formation of ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm will take place here in the gastrulation. So when the three germ layers are formed during the embryonic development in the gastrulation. So what is gastrulation? The transformation of blastocyst into gastrula with three primary germ layers by rearrangement of cells in the blastocyst, right? So what will happen during this process? Gastrulation. See, gastrula means it is the migration of cells. So during gastrulation, the cells which are present in the blastocyst, that is blastomas, we are commonly known as the cells which are present in this embryonic stages are blastomas now. So here, during the gastrulation, what will happen is the cells of blastocyst will migrate to different locations and that will be rearranged in different locations in the embryo. So this type of rearrangement of cells leads to formation of three germ layers. The rearrangement leads to formation of three germ layers that are ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. So this type of movements which takes place in the gastrula causes for the formation of three germ layers here. So what are the three germ layers here? Ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm in the case of triploblasticans, whereas in diploblasticans there are only two germ layers, that are ectoderm and endoderm, there is no mesoderm. So how this process will take place, that we have to know now. Okay, so here during this gastrulation, the cells of blastocyst will move to different locations or their respective locations. That leads to formation of germ layers. Okay, so after formation of germ layers only, after formation of three germ layers only, all the systems of the body will be developed. So from ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm, all the organs and organ systems of the body will be developed. So the process of organogenesis, that is the formation of organs and organ system, will begin only after gastrulation. Only after gastrulation, that we have to notice here. So the embryo will get a particular form only after gastrulation. The embryo will get a particular form only after gastrulation. So how this gastrulation takes place? By the movement of cells or by the migration of cells to their respective locations or by the rearrangement of cells in their respective areas. So finally leads to formation of three germ layers. So this type of movements which takes place in the gastrula are known as morphogenetic movements, because before these movements there is no particular form for the embryo. So embryo will get a particular form After this type of movements in the gastrula or gastrulation, that are known as morphogenetic movements. So what is gastrulation means? It is just like a movement or migration of cells. Movement or migration of cells from one location to another location or from one point to another point in the embryo. So whenever there will be movements, then only there is rearrangement of all these cells takes place that leads to formation of three germ layers. After formation of these germ layers only, the embryo will get a particular form, form. Before there is no particular form or morph. Now the embryo will attain a particular form or a particular structure. Okay. So because of that, these movements are known as morphogenetic movements. Morphogenetic movements. The movements of cells which takes place in the gastrula are known as morphogenetic movements. The cellular movements which takes place in the gastrula during gastrulation is known as morphogenetic movement. Why? So morphogenetic, it is formation of a particular shape or formation of a particular form. Okay. These movements only create a particular form to embryo. So the morph means form, genetic means genesis, there is a production or formation. So a particular formation of embryo takes place because of these movements. So these are known as morphogenetic movements, right? So in future, from these germ layers only, all organs and organ systems will be developed. Then the embryo form will completely developed by this three germ layers. So it is morphogenetic movements. Is it clear? Why the movements of cell in the gastrulation are called as morphogenetic movements? Because these are the movements which will provide a particular form or a particular shape to the embryo. So it is morphogenetic movement. During gastrulation, what will happen, ma? During gastrulation, the cells which are present in the blastocyst will migrate to their respective locations, or that will be rearranged, and that leads to formation of three germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. So that is what? Gastrulation. What is gastrulation? Many times I am repeating. Here only have to understand and completely learn this. Again, no need to by heart. So what is gastrulation? Gastrulation is the process during which the cells of blastocyst will rearrange in its locations, or the cells will migrate to their respective locations that lead to formation of three germ layers. Okay, right? That is gastrulation. Now, how this gastrulation takes place? How this morphogenetic movements takes place in the human? That we will notice. See here, in the case of human being, inner cell mass only modifies into embryo, but outside, which is there? Outside there is a trophoblast layer. If you see here, it is a trophoblast layer. Here is a trophoblast layer, right? In this trophoblast layer, what will happen that we'll notice. Inside the trophoblast layer, there is inner cell mass. What will happen here that we'll see. So if it is trophoblast layer, inside trophoblast, what is there? Inner cell mass is there actually. Now what will happen there? It is a trophoblast, and by this morphogenetic movements of the cells will arrange into two layers. The cells of blastocyst will arrange in two layers. Observe here carefully. The cells of blastocyst will move to two different locations, and that will leads to formation of two different layers here, two different layers of cells. Like this, you will notice here. So the cells of blastocyst will rearrange. That leads to formation of two layers in the inner cell mass. The cells in the inner cell mass of blastocyst will migrate into two layers, that will be arranged into two layers. So the upper layer and lower layer here, the upper layer is known as epiblast. It is epiblast, and the lower layer here is hypoblast. So the first step in the formation of gastrula, that is the rearrangement of cells of inner cell mass into outer epiblast and inner hypoblast layers. So there is formation of two layers now, epiblast and hypoblast. It is a rearrangement of cells of inner cell mass. So what will happen during this phase? The cells of inner cell mass are migrated to two different locations or two different layers. One is outer epiblast, another one is inner hypoblast. So the embryo in this stage appears in the form of a disc, in the form of a small disc. So because of that, this is known as embryonic disc. So the embryo at this phase appears like a small disc. So it is known as embryonic disc. So what are the structures that present in embryonic disc? It is embryonic disc. So whenever there is rearrangement of cells of blastocyst into epiblast and hypoblast, now the embryo appears in the form of a disc, which is known as embryonic disc, right? After embryonic disc formation, what will happen here? Is it clear up to this? So it is outer trophoblast layer, and the cells of inner cell mass are embryonic cell mass, which are differentiated into two layers or which are rearranged into two layers. One is epiblast, another one is a hypoblast. Now this embryo appears in the form of a disc, which is known as embryonic disc. They may ask in exams, what are the layers or what are the membranes that we notice in the embryonic disc of a human embryo? That is epiblast and hypoblast. Epiblast and hypoblast, that you should notice here, right? After formation of this, if you observe in between epiblast and trophoblast, epiblast and trophoblast, there is a cavity. There is a cavity. So it is a amniotic cavity. What is this cavity? Amniotic cavity. Amniotic cavity. So amniotic cavity is the space present between epiblast and trophoblast. Epiblast and trophoblast. There is formation of amniotic cavity. In future, this amniotic cavity will develop as a cavity for an extra embryonic layer, that is amnion. So amnion is an extra embryonic layer. Inside amnion, there is a cavity, that is amniotic cavity, that is formed in between which layers? Epiblast of the embryonic disc and trophoblast. So in between epiblast and trophoblast, there is a cavity. What is the name of that cavity? Amniotic cavity is formed, right? And one more thing you should notice here, there is also a cavity or a space present between epiblast and there is a space between hypoblast and trophoblast. It is primary yolk sac cavity. Primary yolk sac cavity. So yolk sac is also one of the extra embryonic layers. So here formation of primary yolk sac cavity and amniotic cavity both are completed. Yolk sac cavity, right? So there is formation of two cavities, amniotic cavity and a primary yolk sac cavity. The locations of these two is very important. Where the amniotic cavity is present and where the primary yolk sac cavity is present. Where the amniotic cavity is present? The amniotic cavity is present in between epiblast and trophoblast. Primary yolk sac cavity is present between hypoblast and trophoblast, right? Now how many layers are formed in the embryonic disc? In the embryonic disc, there are two layers. What are that two layers? Epiblast and hypoblast. Actually, the epiblast will be differentiated into ectoderm in future. Hypoblast will modify into endoderm in future. But what about mesoderm? For the formation of mesoderm only, the morphogenetic movements will take place here. Okay, that we will see now. Is it clear up to this? If you will understand this, then only you will get the knowledge about the topic. Otherwise, you cannot. Right. After completion of this, next what will happen here? After formation of embryonic disc, there is formation of a primitive streak. A primitive streak or primitive groove will form in the embryonic disc. If this is embryonic disc, there is formation of a small depression on the dorsal side of epiblast. On the dorsal side of epiblast, there is formation of a groove or a long pit-like structure. So, for example, for our understanding, I am drawing here. There is, it is actually, for example, if it is epiblast, in this epiblast, there is formation of a groove-like structure. On dorsal side of this epiblast, there is formation of a groove. So like this, there is formation of a groove-like structure or a deep longitudinal penetration-like structure will form. A groove-like structure will form on the dorsal surface of epiblast, which is known as primitive streak. Primitive streak. Primitive streak actually on dorsal side of this mark. Okay, so it is ventral side. That back side to this, there is a dorsal side of epiblast, and I drawn here vertically, but here it is in a horizontal manner. That you should notice. So it will form horizontally. It will form horizontally in posterior anterior direction. Posterior anterior direction. So it will form in posterior anterior. It starts from the posterior end and move towards the anterior end. So for example, here inside this, actually it is on dorsal side. For the visibility, I am giving you on ventral side. So like this, there is formation of a primitive streak. First, there is formation of a primitive groove that leads to formation of this primitive groove, primitive streak. What is primitive streak? Write down. What is a primitive streak? So how the primitive streak is formed? The formation of a groove or a formation of a deep groove. The formation of a deep groove. The formation of a deep groove in the formation of a deep groove in dorsal side of the epiblast. Dorsal side of the epiblast in posterior anterior direction. In posterior anterior direction. In posterior anterior direction is known as primitive streak. Primitive streak. That you should notice there. Primitive streak formation. So what is primitive streak? The formation of a deep groove. The formation of a deep groove in the dorsal surface of epiblast. In the dorsal surface of epiblast in posterior anterior direction. In posterior anterior direction. That you should notice. So after formation of this primitive streak, what will happen? After formation of this primitive streak, observe carefully here. So it is hypoblast, it is the epiblast, where the primitive streak is formed in the embryo, in the gastrula, in the embryo here. So that is in the epiblast, right? So after formation of this primitive streak, through this primitive streak, the cells of epiblast will migrate in between epiblast and hypoblast. So here, the cells of epiblast. So this through this one. These are the cells of epiblast. So cells of epiblast will migrate in between epiblast and hypoblast. Through this, the epiblast cells will migrate. That leads to formation, or that leads to an inward migration of cells. Observe carefully. So it is epiblast. After formation of primitive streak, through primitive streak, the cells of epiblast will be migrate inwardly in between epiblast and hypoblast. So now the cells of epiblast will migrate in between epiblast and hypoblast. This type of inward migration of cells is known as invagination. So what is invagination? So here invagination of cells takes place. Invagination of cells takes place here. What is invagination? The inward movement of cells. The inward movement of cells. So through this primitive streak, the cells of epiblast migrates in between epiblast and hypoblast. It is epiblast. It is the primitive streak. So through this primitive streak, what will happen? The cells of epiblast will migrate in between epiblast and hypoblast. Is it clear? Now what will happen? A new layer is formed in between epiblast and hypoblast. What is that? By these invaginations, that is inward movement of cells of epiblast, there is formation of a third layer of cells. In this third layer of cells, observe carefully, some recently migrated or newly invaginated cells along with hypoplasma. Some of the cells which are migrated here will form the endometrium. Some of the migrated cells here, already hypoblast is there. Along with this hypoblast, some invaginated cells from the epiblast form endoderm. So which layer will form first in the embryo? In the gastrulation, which is the first germ layer that is developed here? Endometrium. So endometrium is formed by hypoblast and along with the invaginated cells from the epiblast. The invaginated cells are the inwardly migrated cells from epiblast to in between epiblast and hypoblast collectively form endometrium. Very important. Listen carefully. Hypoblast along with some, not complete, along with some invaginated epiblast cells collectively form endometrium. And after that, the cells which are remain in the epiblast, all the cells cannot completely migrated here. Only some cells of epiblast migrated in between epiblast and hypoblast. In this migrated or invaginated cells, some invaginated cells along with the hypoblast form endometrium, and the remaining cells which are present in the epiblast will develop as ectoderm. Sorry, here I wrote endometrium. Sorry, it is actually endoderm. Endometrium is the inner layer of uterus. Endoderm, the first germ layer that is formed here is endoderm. Right after endoderm, which will form here? Ectoderm will form. Ectoderm. Right? So the second layer that will form here is ectoderm. So endoderm is the first germ layer that is formed. How it is formed? Whenever the epiblast cells are invaginated, some epiblast cells along with hypoblast will form endoderm, and the remaining cells in the epiblast will form ectoderm, and the cells which are remain in between epiblast and hypoblast, the invaginated cells which are remain in between epiblast and hypoblast will form the third germ layer, that is the mesoderm. So in this process, how many cells are formed? How many germ layers are formed? By the rearrangement of the cells. By the rearrangement of these cells, there is formation of 3 germ layers: outer, ectoderm; middle, mesoderm; inner, endoderm. So in the embryonic disc, there was the 2 layers, epiblast and hypoblast, but now these are modified into 3 primary germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. That you should notice here. Along with this, there is how many cavities are formed? There is amniotic cavity and the primary yolk sac cavity also there in this stage of embryo. So what is the name of this stage of embryo? So the embryo with 3 germ layers is gastrula. What is this now? Gastrula. So the formation of this gastrula is known as gastrulation. So blastocyst is transformed into gastrula. That process is known as gastrulation. How this gastrulation takes place? By rearrangement of cells or by the migration of cells to their respective locations. This gastrulation takes place. And the movements which takes place in the gastrulation, the cellular movements which takes place in the gastrulation are known as morphogenetic movements. The cellular movements that takes place in the gastrulation is known as morphogenetic movements. And which type of movements takes place here? The inward movements of cells takes place from the epiblast to in between epiblast and hypoblast. So that type of movements are known as invaginations. So invaginations takes place in the gastrulation of human. Important one. Invaginations takes place in the gastrulation of human, and the movements during gastrulation are known as morphogenetic movements. What is the result of gastrulation? Formation of 3 germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. So gastrulation is completed. Gastrulation is completed. Okay, the blastocyst is transformed into gastrula with 3 primary germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm by the cellular movements or by rearrangement of cells in the inner cell mass of the blastocyst. Right, that's clear. 3 germ layers are formed. After formation of 3 germ layers, next what will happen in the embryo? So these 3 germ layers are the sites of production of all the organs and organ systems. Next to this gastrulation is organogenesis. That is the formation of organs and organ systems. All the organs and organ systems of our body are developed from only these 3 germ layers. For example, if you see our skin, our nervous system that are developed from the ectoderm, right? Our muscles, our bones, our kidneys, that is the excretory organs, all are developed from the mesoderm. And our alimentary canal and most of the parts of the respiratory tract and all glands, actually inner glands, that are developed from the endoderm. Like that, all the parts of the body, all the organs and organ systems of the body will be developed from these 3 germ layers later. That process is known as organogenesis. We will discuss that organogenesis later. Just remember, after gastrulation, organogenesis will begin. But how this gastrula will be nourished? This is nothing but an embryo now. So how this embryo will be nourished? How it will get all required nutrients, respiratory gases, and how exchange of gases takes place, and how the elimination of nitrogenous waste takes place. So that all we have to discuss. Before going to discuss that, take a short break. You learned up to formation of gastrula, that is gastrulation. Gastrulation is completed. We will discuss the remaining topic after a short break. Welcome back, students. After completion of the topic gastrulation, that is the transformation of blastocyst into gastrula with 3 primary germ layers by rearrangement of cells or by invaginating movements of the cells is known as gastrulation. In this gastrulation, there is formation of 3 germ layers. Okay, right? After completion of that, what will happen here? Next, see if you observe carefully here, there is amniotic cavity and primary yolk sac cavity is there. Amniotic cavity and primary yolk sac cavity is there. Now, one thing you should remember here, the amniotic cavity which is present here, amniotic cavity. So that amniotic cavity is actually a cavity of an extra embryonic layer in future, that is amnion. So this amniotic cavity is, observe here carefully, this amniotic cavity is lined by the cells. Actually, the roof of amniotic cavity, the roof of amniotic cavity is lined by amniogenic cells. So the cells, amniogenic cells, amniogenic cells. The roof of amniotic cavity is lined by amniogenic cells. The roof of amniotic cavity is lined by amniogenic cells. These amniogenic cells are derived from the trophoblast. That you should notice here, very important one for competitives. So here amniogenic cells. The roof of amniotic cavity is lined by amniogenic cells. That amniogenic cells are derived from the trophoblast layer. Okay, so it is amniotic cavity. The roof of amniotic cavity is lined by amniogenic cells. These amniogenic cells are derived from the trophoblast layer. Derived from a trophoblast layer. And what about the floor? Here, the floor of amniotic cavity is lined by the floor of amniotic cavity is lined by epiblast cells. It is epiblast. It is the floor. The floor of amniotic cavity is lined by epiblast cells. The floor of amniotic cavity is lined by epiblast cells. That you should notice here. So in the amniotic cavity, two important things you have to notice. The roof of amniotic cavity is lined by amniogenic cells which are derived from the trophoblast layer. It is derived from the trophoblast layer. And the floor of amniotic cavity is lined by epiblast cells. Lined by epiblast cells, right? That you should notice. Why I am giving here this point is, at the time of discussing about the amnion, which layer is present inside the amnion and which layer is present outside the amnion? That question they may ask for competitives. Okay, already they asked that in previous NEET examinations. Okay, so amnion, chorion, yolk sac, and allantois, how that are lined internally by which layer and externally by which layer, we have to notice. For that I gave you here. Just remember this, at the time of giving about amnion, I will give you the importance of this. So amniotic cavity is present in between trophoblast and epiblast. The roof of amniotic cavity is lined by amniogenic cells. These amniogenic cells are derived from the trophoblast layer. And the floor of amniotic cavity is lined by epiblast cells. Epiblast cells. That means epiblast is modified into ectoderm. Okay, ectodermal cells are epiblast cells. That you should notice. And you will observe here, it is the primary yolk sac cavity. Primary yolk sac cavity. Later, what will happen in the primary yolk sac cavity here? See, the cells of hypoblast, the flat cells actually, the flat cells of hypoblast will invaded, that will move inwardly into this primary yolk sac cavity. The cells of hypoblast, the cells of hypoblast will be invaded into primary yolk sac cavity, and due to this inner lining of hypoblast cells in the primary yolk sac cavity, the size of primary yolk sac cavity is reduced, which is known as secondary yolk sac cavity. So before, there is more space inside the primary yolk sac cavity, but now the cells from the hypoblast are invaginated, or that is invaded into this cavity, primary yolk sac cavity. Because of that, what will happen? Because of this, the size of primary yolk sac cavity is reduced. then this yolk sac cavity is known as secondary yolk sac cavity. Secondary yolk sac cavity, that you should notice, ma. So primary yolk sac cavity is modified into secondary yolk sac cavity. How it is modified into secondary yolk sac cavity? By reducing its size. How the size is reduced here? By migration of cells from the hypoblast. Okay, so the cells of hypoblast are migrated inside the primary yolk sac cavity. Due to that, the size of primary yolk sac cavity is reduced. Now we can call that as a secondary yolk sac cavity. So this yolk sac cavity will modify into yolk sac in future. Okay, that we will discuss at the time of discussing about the embryonic layers. That you should notice here. Secondary yolk sac cavity is formed. Is it clear? Right. After that, one more thing you have to notice here. This hypoblast will modifies into endoderm in future. So yolk sac is internally lined by endoderm. Yolk sac is internally lined by endoderm. Tropoblast is outer layer. Okay. So this tropoblast is present inside the amnion. Amnion is internally lined by tropoblast layer or amniogenic cell layer, which is derived from the tropoblast. But outside, it is lined by a layer that we will discuss now. So actually, from the tropoblast, there is formation of extra embryonic mesoderm. Now, how the extra embryonic mesoderm will form, and how the layers of extra embryonic mesoderm covers these extra embryonic membranes. See, now observe here one more diagram. So it is what? It is outer tropoblast layer. Outer tropoblast layer. In this outer tropoblast layer, okay, so the tropoblast layer, from the tropoblast layer, a mass of cells will be derived here. A mass of cells will be derived from the tropoblast layer. A mass of cells will be derived inside. A thick mass of cells will be derived inside from the tropoblast layer. So this thick mass of cells which derived from the trophoblast will form a membrane which is known as, it is actually a mesodermic layer. It is a mesoderm. So here a thick layer of cells or a thick mass of cells derived from the trophoblast layer inside. This is actually mesoderm. It is a mesoderm. This mesoderm is present outside the embryo. Inside this, what is there? Inside this, there is amniotic cavity. Like this, there is amniotic cavity is there, and below that there is what? It is a yolk sac cavity. So two are there, and here there is three germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm are there. So it is endoderm, and it is mesoderm, and here there is ectoderm. Okay, ma'am. So if you consider opposite in this direction, if it is outside, it is ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. Okay. So if you consider this as outside, it is ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. Okay. That you should notice here. This cavity actually here reduced already. This cavity is actually what? This is a primitive. Sorry, it is secondary yolk sac cavity now. And here it is amniotic cavity. Right, this is a embryo. Now we'll observe here carefully. In this embryo, the newly formed mesoderm from the trophoblast is located outside the embryo. It is not part in the embryo. So a newly developed mesoderm from trophoblast cell layer is present outside the that is present outside the embryo. So we can call this newly formed layer as extra embryonic mesoderm. Extra embryonic mesoderm. So what is that mesoderm? That mesoderm is actually extra embryonic mesoderm that we will discuss now. Extra embryonic mesoderm. So extra embryonic, why it is extra embryonic? It is not part in the embryo. It is present outside the embryo, so we can call this as extra embryonic mesoderm. Extra embryonic mesoderm. What is extra embryonic mesoderm? From the trophoblast layer, a thick mass of cells arises. A thick mass of cells arises, and that will form a membrane around around the embryo, which is known as extra embryonic mesoderm. Already one mesoderm is there inside the embryo. That is a embryonic mesoderm. Now it is extra embryonic mesoderm. Extra embryonic mesoderm. From which part of the embryo extra embryonic mesoderm arises? From the trophoblast layer, extra embryonic mesoderm is arised. Later, after formation of extra embryonic mesoderm, this extra embryonic mesoderm will split into two. Okay, so extra embryonic mesoderm, which is formed here, it is exactly like formation of schizosylome. Schizosylome, how the schizosylome will form in the schizocoelomate animals. So by the splitting of mesoderm, into two layers, okay, two peritonia, visceral and parietal peritoneum. So that leads to formation of a cavity in the schizosylome. No, like that, this extra embryonic mesoderm will split into two layers. That leads to formation of a cavity between that. Observe here. Now extra embryonic layer is split it into layers. One is here along with the trophoblast. It is near to trophoblast, so it is outside. And another one here that is around the embryo or close to embryo. So the extra embryonic layer, the extra embryonic mesoderm is divided into inner and outer layers. That leads to formation of a space between them, or a cavity between them, or a coelom between them. So it is extra embryonic coelom. The coelom is not present inside the embryo, it is present outside the embryo. No, so it is extra embryonic coelom. So there is formation of extra embryonic coelom. Extra embryonic coelom. How the extra embryonic coelom is formed? By the splitting of extra embryonic mesoderm into an inner and outer layer. So the inner layer is known as visceral extra embryonic mesoderm. Visceral extra embryonic mesoderm. Visceral extra embryonic mesoderm. And the outer one is the parietal extra embryonic mesoderm. So extra embryonic mesoderm is divided into two regions here. It is split and form two regions. The inner one is visceral extra embryonic mesoderm. Outer one is parietal extra embryonic mesoderm. In between visceral and parietal extra embryonic mesoderms, there is a cavity. What is the name of this? It is extra embryonic coelom. Extra embryonic coelom. See this visceral extra embryonic mesoderm and parietal extra embryonic mesoderm both play an important role in the formation of extra embryonic layers. As already I told you, from the implantation to formation of placenta, from the implantation to formation of placenta, all the requirements for the embryo will be supplied by the extra embryonic layers. Because in human being, the eggs are celestial eggs. Okay, so there is no chances for the nourishment of baby, nourishment of embryo without a connection between mother and embryo. So which will form the first connection between the mother and embryo? That are extra embryonic layers. Extra embryonic layers. That extra embryonic layers are developed from the trophoblast layer. Okay, so mesoderm also developed from a trophoblast layer. So here visceral extra embryonic mesoderm, parietal extra embryonic mesoderm, that you have to remember. See, this visceral extra embryonic mesoderm is also known as splanchnopluric. Splanchnopluric extra embryonic mesoderm. Extra embryonic mesoderm. Splanchnopluric extra embryonic mesoderm, and parietal extra embryonic mesoderm is known as somatopluric extra embryonic mesoderm. So that names are very important, ma. The names are very important. So visceral extra embryonic mesoderm is also known as splanchnopluric extra embryonic mesoderm. Splanchnopluric extra embryonic mesoderm, right? And outer, that is a parietal extra embryonic mesoderm, is also known as somatopluric extra embryonic mesoderm. So that is the formation of extra embryonic mesoderm, extra embryonic coelom. Okay, so extra embryonic mesoderm and extra embryonic coelom is formed by tropoblast layer. Okay, so after completion of this, here it is the cavity, that is the extra embryonic coelom. This is parietal or somatopluric extra embryonic mesoderm. It is visceral or splanchnopluric extra embryonic mesoderm, that you should notice. After completion of this, we have to discuss the formation of extra embryonic membranes. So what are the extra embryonic membranes that present in human being, and what is the role of that extra embryonic layers? So these are developed outside the embryo. These are not a part in the embryo. Because of that, we can call that as the extra embryonic layers. Extra embryonic layers that are not part in the embryo, but that are essential for various activities to be continued in the embryos. Okay, for nourishment, for exchange of gases, for excretion. Okay, and also for the protection. There is extra embryonic layers present here. After completion of that extra embryonic layers, we will discuss the fate of these germ layers which are formed here. As already I told you, there is formation of 3 primary germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm. Then what is the fate of these germ layers? What are the organs that develop from the ectoderm? What are the organs that develop from the endoderm? What are the organs that develop from the mesoderm? So all the details we have to discuss. Before going to discuss that, first we will discuss about the extra embryonic layers. Shall I erase this? Now the topic is extra embryonic layers. There are 4 extra embryonic layers that are formed in human embryos. That 4 extra embryonic layers here: chorion, amnion, allantois, and yolk sac. Chorion, amnion, allantois, and yolk sac. So now, in the form of a diagrammatic representation, I will give you the locations of that. The extra embryonic layers. So there are 4 extra embryonic layers in human being. What are that 4 extra embryonic layers that we see? So if you see, it is an embryo. Okay, it is actually an embryo. In this, this one. Next, there is a outermost. second layer, second extra embryonic membrane, and after this, the third. They use this. The third. Okay, that is third. At last, one more layer here, one more membrane, that is like that. We'll draw this some more large. Right. Okay. Okay, observe here. So these are extra embryonic layers in human embryo. Extra embryonic layers. What are the extra embryonic layers and what is the role of that and how that are formed, all that we discuss now. Okay, we'll discuss all that information. So before going to discuss that, what are the names of this? What are the names of these? So here the outermost which you will observe. Okay. Now here, outermost and very important, chorion, the extra embryonic layer, chorion. Is it clear? Chorion. What is that? Chorion. And here if you observe, amnion. Amnion. Chorion. Amnion is the second. And here two are there. One is yolk sac and allantois. Allantois. So total how many are there? There are 4 layers. Okay, yolk sac, here it is allantois, chorion and amnion. So how many extra embryonic layers are there in human being? There are 4 extra embryonic layers. That 4 extra embryonic layers are chorion, amnion, allantois and also yolk sac. That you have to remember here. Right? 4 extra embryonic layers, chorion, amnion, yolk sac and allantois. So what is the role of these 4 extra embryonic layers here? Okay. So outside this there is a trophoblast. Outside this there is a trophoblast, but we are discussing only about extra embryonic layers which are derived from extra embryonic mesoderm here. So here if you observe here it is embryo. So around the embryo or outside the embryo there is formation of 4 extra embryonic layers. What are these 4 extra embryonic layers? Here chorion, amnion, yolk sac and allantois are the 4 extra embryonic layers that are present in the embryo of human V. Okay. So now the Korean, the very important thing you have to notice here, that is the outermost layer which covers the entire embryo along with all extra embryonic layers is the Korean. Korean is the largest extra embryonic layer that covers the entire embryo along with all extra embryonic layers. And this Korean, after implantation, in this Korean, there is formation of some finger-like projections which are known as chorionic villi. What are this? Chorionic villi. On the Korean, there is formation of chorionic villi. After implantation, chorionic villi are formed. Chorionic villi are formed. What is the importance of this chorionic villi? Why there is formation of this chorionic villi? If you will see in the uterus, if it is Korean, it is the endometrium of the uterus. Okay. Now from the Korean, there is arising of chorionic villi. This chorionic villi penetrates into the endometrium of uterus. This deeply penetrates into the endometrium of the uterus. Whenever it will deeply penetrates into the endometrium of uterus, that leads to damage of capillaries which are present there. So if you see, there is the arising of chorionic villi. That chorionic villi deeply penetrates into the endometrial tissue. Whenever this deep penetration takes place, that leads to damage of capillaries which are present in the endometrial tissue of the endometrium. Now, because of that, around this villi, if it is villi, chorionic villi, due to damage of capillaries, the blood which is present there will, the blood of mother has a direct contact with the chorionic villi. So the blood of mother, so whenever this finger-like projections, there is a chorionic villi penetrate deeply into the endometrium of uterus, that leads to breakdown of capillaries. Whenever blood capillaries will break down, the blood of mother will in direct contact with the chorionic villi, but there is no mixing of blood. The blood of mother cannot enter into the fetus. That you have to notice here. The blood of mother cannot enter into the embryo, but the blood of mother has a close intimacy. Okay. So the close intimacy with the chorionic villi. If you observe carefully here, this is a villi. So around this villi, our villi are directly bathed in the blood of mother. Is it clear? So because of this, the materials which are present in the blood of mother will be exchanged with the chorionic villi. For example, if there is more oxygen, if partial pressure of oxygen is high in the blood of mother, if that is low in the chorionic villi, oxygen will be dissolved or diffused into the chorionic villi. If glucose is more in the blood of mother, that glucose will diffuse into the chorionic villi. If there is more carbon dioxide in the chorionic villi, that carbon dioxide will be diffuses into the blood of the mother. If there is any nitrogenous waste, that will be diffuses into the blood of the mother. Okay. So for the exchange of gases and also for exchange of materials and also for the elimination of nitrogenous waste, this intimacy between chorionic villi and blood of mother, that is maternal blood, play an important role. So the Korean has a direct contact with the maternal blood. This type of Korean is known as hemo-Korean. Hemo means blood. Hematology is the study of blood. Okay. So this type of Korean, which have a close intimacy or a direct contact with the blood of mother, is known as hemo-Korean. Which type of Korean is there in human being? The Korean is a hemo-Korean type. Hemo-Korean type. What is a hemo-Korean? If Korean has a direct contact with the blood of mother, or the Korean has a great intimacy with maternal blood, that type of Korean is known as hemo-Korean. So what is the use of this intimacy or this close contact or direct contact? Because of this contact only, the diffusion of material takes place between the chorionic villi and maternal blood. the oxygen and glucose and other nutrients which are high in the blood of mother will diffuse into the chorionic villi. From there to chorion to amnion to the embryo that will reach. And whatever the gases that produced here, especially carbon dioxide and nitrogenous waste, the carbon dioxide, due to its high partial pressure and due to high concentration of nitrogenous waste which will be produced in the embryo by metabolic activities, will release into the amnion. From there to chorionic villi to maternal blood. So chorionic villi are essential for functions like nutrition, respiration, excretion. Nutrition, respiration, and excretion. So without this deep penetration of chorionic villi, it is not possible. So that you have to notice about the chorion. Chorion is outermost extra-embryonic layer which covers all other extra-embryonic layers and also the embryo. And here in this chorion, there is development of finger-like projections which will penetrate in depth of endometrium that leads to breakage of blood capillaries. Then the chorionic villi has a direct contact with maternal blood that provide a chance for the exchange of materials between the embryo and mother. So up to formation of placenta, this chorionic villi are essential. And after formation of placenta, at the time of formation of placenta, this chorionic villi play an important role. Actually, in the placenta, there are two parts. 50% of placenta is formed by mother, another 50% of placenta is formed by embryo. Okay. So the fetal part of placenta is formed by chorionic villi. At the time of formation of fetal part of placenta, which will play a role, an important role, that is chorionic villi. Chorionic villi only modifies into the fetal part of placenta. We will discuss that at the time of discussing about the placenta. So now we will remember chorion. So up to that you should remember. In next class, we will continue about the remaining extra-embryonic layers, right? So in this class, we discussed gastrulation, that is the process of conversion of blastocyst into gastrula with 3 primary germ layers by rearrangement of cells. So after that, we discussed about formation of embryonic disc. Later, we discussed about the primitive streak. After that, we discussed about the formation of 3 germ layers, extra 3 germ layers, ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. Okay. So during this process, there are invaginatory movements takes place, or invaginations takes place. And after completion of that, we discussed about the formation of extra-embryonic mesoderm by trophoblast. In this extra-embryonic mesoderm, how the extra-embryonic mesoderm will form an extra-embryonic coelom. Extra-embryonic coelom that we discussed. After completion of that, we discussed about extra-embryonic layers. As already I mentioned, extra-embryonic layers play a vital role. Okay, a vital role for the survival of the embryo from implantation to formation of placenta. In between this period, all the requirements for the embryo will be supplied by these extra-embryonic layers, and this will protect the embryo. Okay, so what are the extra-embryonic layers that are present in the human embryo? There are 4 extra-embryonic layers present in human embryo: chorion, amnion, yolk sac, and allantois. These are the 4 extra-embryonic layers, right, that we discussed. And some more details we have to discuss. See, this extra-embryonic layer, there is chorion, we discussed some information about the chorion here. But this chorion is internally lined by a membrane and externally also lined by a membrane. You all know that outside chorion, which is there, ma? Outside chorion, there is trophoblast. Outside chorion, there is a trophoblast is present. What about inside? Inside, there is somatopleuric, it is internally like this one. So chorion is externally lined by trophoblast and internally lined by somatopleuric extra-embryonic mesoderm or parietal extra-embryonic mesoderm. Chorion is externally lined by trophoblast layer and internally lined by somatopleuric extra-embryonic mesoderm or parietal extra-embryonic mesoderm. If they will simply give as mesoderm, you will choose it. If they will particularly mention somatopleuric or splanchnopluric, then you have to go for a somatopleuric. So, for your easy understanding, outside tropoblast, inside mesoderm. Outside tropoblast, inside extraembryonic mesoderm is present. That you should notice. And the details of the remaining extraembryonic layers and the fate of 3 Zyme layers we will discuss in next class. Thank you.